What is up, guys? Welcome to Untitled and Unfiltered. My name is Quincy Carrier, and this is where you're going to get the most in-depth breakdown on the internet of this week's Week 3 matchup on Sunday Night Football between the Browns and the Rams. And see, the Browns and the Rams are a interesting matchup because both teams have struggles in their passing game while having immense potential and talent. Both teams have strong defensive lines and pretty good while exposable secondaries. Both teams have strong running backs. Both teams have exposable offensive lines. Both teams have question marks at the linebacking position. These two teams both have a lot to offer on paper and on the field, but they have come out the gates a little bit slower than most people thought. So I think this is going to lead to a physical, slow-paced defensive game. Now, first, let's look at some of the key matchups going into this game. The first thing that you have to wonder is, can the Rams passing attack get hot versus a Browns secondary that has looked suspect at times? The specific matchup I'm worried about here is Denzel Ward with Brandon Cooks. Denzel Ward has been slow to adjust to his own scheme to start the season for the Cleveland Browns, and this has led to him giving up a lot more plays than usual. And this has also led to him being a much weaker tackler than he was last year, which is why I'm worried about him on Brandon Cooks, because Brandon Cooks is the type of guy who can kill you with yards after catch. And if Denzel Ward is not a short tackler or 100% on his technique, then Brandon Cooks could have a big day. Second matchup for the Rams that I would look at is, can the Rams run the ball on this Browns defensive line? Last week, the Browns front seven did a very good job in containing one of the league's best running backs in Le'Veon Bell. They also did a good job of fixing a lot of the over-aggressiveness issues that they had in week 1 against the Titans, which led to them being gashed on large screen plays all day. That bodes well against a Rams rushing attack that's going to be weakened in the interior because of the switching around they've had to do at center and right guard, and potentially not having their starting right guard. So if you're the Browns, this is going to be a game where you're going to want to get a lot out of your interior defensive line. So that points to Larry Ogunjobi, if healthy, and Sheldon Richardson. Both of those guys are going to be paramount to what the Browns need to do. The Browns are going to need to be able to create consistent pressure up the middle and to be able to stop the run up the middle and contain Todd Gurley and force Jared Goff to pass, because that is exactly what the game plan should be on defense, because Jared Goff is a much worse quarterback on the road than he is at home, and that's what you're going to want to take advantage of if you're the Browns. Now, for the Browns offense, it's going to be a question of, can this offense get going at home while playing a very, very talented, very good Rams defense? The Rams defense ranks 7th in pass defense in terms of yards, and they rank 9th in rushing defense. So this is no doubt a top 10 defense so far in the season. And for a Browns offense that has struggled to look crisp and to look in sync against teams like the Jets, and especially against the Titans, it is going to be paramount that they get everything clicking in order to get anything done against this Rams defense, because they seem like they are miles better than any defense this team has played so far. And of course, the big question going into this is, what is the Browns offensive line going to do with Aaron Donald? Aaron Donald is obviously one of the best players, if not the best players overall in the league. He is dominant. He will get back there in your backfield. There is no game planning you can do to contain him. You are just going to hope to be able to, if you're the Browns, your hope is to not let him take over the game. If he doesn't take over the game, you have hope. If Aaron Donald takes over this game, we're done for. The Browns are going to have to figure out whatever they need to figure out, because they have two things that kind of go against each other. One, they're going to want to get the ball out of their hand quickly, which normally means throwing to, your check down, which is normally your running back. But if you're the Browns also, you're going to have to keep your running back in to block a lot more. Dearness Johnson saw a lot of snaps blocking last week against the Jets, and that's part of the reason why Baker didn't have a lot of check down options, on top of not having Rashard Higgins available, not having David Njoku available. So for a Browns offensive line that, let's face it, struggled to stop a old Cameron Wake, stopping a Aaron Donald is going to be a whole nother task. So I would put the onus on the coaching staff to be able to figure out a way around that problem. They need to figure out a way for this week to just get the ball out quickly, to spread the line of scrimmage, to get away from Aaron Donald, period. And I would take my chances outside of Aaron Donald. Next question is, will Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins be healthy and ready to make an impact? We already know that David Njoku is most likely out with a broken wrist this week and for most of the season. So in that wide receiving core, there needs to be a sense of urgency between two guys we expected to show up a lot more than they have so far, Rashard Higgins and Jarvis Landry. A lot of people are pointing the finger at OBJ as the bottleneck in this offense, that Baker's throwing the ball to him too much, and that's what's slowing this offense down. I say that the fact that Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins either haven't been healthy or haven't been open is what's slowing this offense down. Baker is looking for those two guys. I think he throws to OBJ a lot because he doesn't have any other option to throw to than OBJ. So those two guys need to play better, need to get open. And I think they can get open with the type of wide receivers that the Browns have. Smaller guys outside of Odell Beckham and maybe Damian Ratley. Not a lot of top-end speed since there's no Antonio Callaway as well. A lot of teams are going to sit back, play zone, because that's what stops Baker more often than not. Baker's really good against man. You put him in zone, he has a little bit of a struggle there, is what we have seen. So what we need Jarvis and Rashard Higgins to do is do what they're supposed to do. Those are two guys that you have on your roster because specifically they're good fits against a zone scheme. They need to just play better, and that will help the offense move along a lot better. And I really like the matchup that Jarvis Landry is going to have on Nickell Robey-Coleman. I think the number one issue with the Browns offense through the first 2 weeks is a lack of rhythm. When this offense looked really good against Tennessee, that first drive, it was a hurry-up drive. You know, they were going really fast. In the first preseason game, they looked really good when they were in tempo, when they were able to just get the ball moving down the field and use that rhythm to carry them through. Baker is really good in rhythm. That's what the Browns need to do. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Browns go to a hurry-up offense here just to get some rhythm going. You know, short passes here and there. Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins, take your 5 or 6 yards. You're going to want to slow the game down. You're going to want to take possessions away. And you're going to want to play really good defense against this team. Look for Jarvis Landry to have a big day against the Rams. All right, so key injuries for this week's game. On the Rams side, we only have 2 injuries. Tyler Higbee, they're starting tight end. Austin Blythe, they're starting right guard. Again, they rotated. He plays center sometimes. They've moved him to right guard to account for some things. But now it looks like he's not going to be out. Did not practice the first 2 days. We'll see if he practices on Friday and if he's available for the game. But for the Browns, they have a lot of key players out. The guys that are very notable, Demarius Randall might not play. Chris Hubbard might not play, even though he says he would. He was also in a boot the last 2 days and has not practiced. And then we got guys we know aren't going to play. Christian Kirksey, most likely out. David Njoku, most likely out. So the Browns are going to be kind of shorthanded here. At the David Njoku being out with the broken wrist hurts a lot because there's no other options on this team at tight end. We knew this going in to the regular season. We knew this during training camp that the tight end pool on this team was weak. And losing David Njoku, probably the one real dependable tight end that you had on that roster, is definitely going to hurt them. And then Christian Kirksey being out. Now they have Mack Wilson, they have Sione Takitaki. They also have Jannard Avery back this week. So that should be able to be schemed around. Now the biggest weakness / problem for each team, I'm going to go with the Rams first. If this comes to be a defensive battle, then I think this is a game that the Browns can easily win. I think that's what the Browns' game plan should be. Win this thing ugly. Don't try to win it flashy. Win it ugly. Win it with your defense and go from there. The easiest way for the Browns to make that happen is to dominate the line of scrimmage, and I think that they have what it takes on that front line, if they play well, to dominate the line of scrimmage and take a lot of things away from Goff, take away Todd Gurley, force Jared Goff to kill him when you have consistent pressure on him. And I think if you can get consistent pressure on Jared Goff, you're in a very, very good spot to slow down that Rams offense. And for the Browns, their biggest weakness / problem for this week is Aaron friggin' Donald. if they can find a way to slow down Aaron Donald and not let him take over this game, the Browns are in a great position to win this game. I like a lot of their matchups on offense. I think they're going to be able to move the ball a little bit better than the Rams should be able to against the Browns offense, against the Browns defense. But Aaron Donald is the type of dude who could throw a monkey wrench and all that. So if they can't get him contained, which I'm very worried about because of Aaron Donald's versatility and how he moves around, and the fact that the Browns have huge weaknesses on this offensive line, I'm very worried about their ability to contain him. If Aaron Donald gets loose and dominates this game, it's over for the Browns. But if the Browns can find a way to contain him and not let him be too big of a factor in this game, that is extremely good for the Browns. All right, guys, so let's move into some win criteria. And for the Rams, the win criteria is going to be, you're going to want to sack Baker Mayfield 5 or more times. You're going to want Aaron Donald to get going. You're going to want Aaron Donald in that backfield all day. Also, you're going to want to be able to keep Nick Chubb under 20 touches out of the end zone. I think this is obvious. Browns can't get the run game going. It's going to clog up the passing game. It's going to slow down a lot of what the Browns can do. And if you're the Rams, you're going to want to protect Jared Goff, obviously, minimize what Myles Garrett can do, and get the ball to Brandon Cooks. I think if the Rams can keep the Browns defense to 4 or 5 sacks and get the ball to Brandon Cooks and get him about 100 yards of offense, then I think this is going to be a very, very good night for the LA Rams. Now let's look at the win criteria for the Browns. The Browns are going to want to get to Jared Goff. They're going to want to punish Jared Goff. They're going to want to sack him 5 or more times. They're going to want to get Myles Garrett going. But more importantly, get Sheldon Richardson and Larry Ogunjobi involved in this game and through that and penetrated into the backfield. And now you're also going to want to get Nick Chubb about 25 touches, get him over 100 yards. That's a very good place to be in because of the way you're going to want to win this game. And sure, you're going to want to use OBJ. OBJ is going to be a factor because he's the best player on offense, but you're going to want to use OBJ and Jarvis in more screen plays. Maybe get the ball to OBJ just like you did with the 89-yard touchdown run between the numbers instead of trying to go deep to him outside the numbers. Again, quick hitters. You're going to want to get the ball out of Baker's hand, run a lot of hurry up, and move this ball quickly and keep that defensive line on the field. Get them tired. That's going to minimize the effectiveness of Aaron Donald. The last thing I kind of touched on is contain Aaron Donald. You're going to want to have him less than a combination of 4 tackle for losses or sacks. So if he has 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, but if he has 3 sacks or 2 sacks and 3 tackles for loss, then you're in big trouble. That means Aaron Donald is starting to take over the line of scrimmage and take over the game. And that means that the Browns are going to have a very, very bad day. Now let's actually predict who's going to win or lose this game. Well, this game is going to be a close one, I think. I think a lot of people have this written off as a Rams blowout. I think a lot of people saw the Browns offense be a little choppy on Monday night, and they're going to assume that that's going to be the same team that shows up. But I think this Browns offense is going to make some adjustments that they weren't able to make so far, since they have some of their key pieces at wide receiver back. I think they're going to be able to move the ball a little bit better because they're going to be moving with more rhythm and tempo. And I think this is going to lead to a more entertaining game than people anticipate. I do think that the Browns can manage to make this a defensive battle, and I do think that gives them the edge because in a defensive battle, I trust the playmakers the Browns have on offense to be able to make a big play to score that difference-making touchdown more than the playmakers that the Rams have at wide receiver. I think this defense matches up favorably against what the Rams do well on offense. And I think this Browns defense is going to be able to keep this Rams offense to about 21 points. I have the Browns winning 24-21, but there's already no David Njoku. But if there's no Randall, there's no Hubbard, and there's no Higgins, I flip the score. I think the Rams are going to win this game. But since I think that some of those players are going to play and be available, I'm going to go with the Browns here. All right, guys, that is it for this Week 2 preview. Let me know who you think is going to win this week's games. Do you think I am wrong? Do you think the Rams are going to completely obliterate the Browns? Or do you think that the Browns are going to fare a lot better and this isn't even going to be as close of a game as I think it's going to be? Let me know in the comment section down below. But thank you for watching. If you like what I do here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. And if you want to help the show out, please join the Patreon, $1 a month. Helps me out a lot, or buy a shirt. Either way is great and appreciated. But that is it for this week's video. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.